It's Monday, and that means it's time for Begnaud's America with our David Begnaud, where we find the heart in every story. And by we mean David Begnaud, who is here with us this morning. Good morning, Boo.
Good to see you. You look great in green.
Thank you.
By the way, FYI. Good morning, everybody. This is a story about grace, friendship, and redemption.
These two women have formed an unlikely alliance. The First Lady of Illinois, M.K. Pritzker, and Willette Benford, who served 24 years in prison.
Is this the first time you're seeing her room?
First time.
Yeah, first time.
This was the room that Benford called home for the first year of her life after prison. Inside of Grace House, a residential program in Chicago that supports women exiting the prison system.
It was the first room that I was in that I could literally walk in and out of, and not have to worry about someone locking me in it.
In 1995, Benford was sentenced to 50 years in prison for first-degree murder. Benford says she was in a violent same-sex relationship, and she tried to flee one night.
I ran and jumped in my car. She jumped on the hood of the car, and I pulled off. Not knowing the area, I turned around and came back up the street, and that's when they said I hit her.
Benford says, and court records reveal, that her attorney advised her to hide the details of the domestic violence because she was in a same-sex relationship, and the attorney feared that might turn off the jury.
None of the domestic violence, the times I had her arrested or the times I went to the hospital, none of that was talked about in court. After I was incarcerated, I got my GED.
In 2016, there was an amendment to an Illinois law that added abuse as a factor to consider its sentencing. Because of that, Willette Benford became eligible for resentencing.
You got credit for time served?
I got credit for time served, and I was released on February 6, 2019. How many women do you think are sitting in prison that didn't get the opportunity that I got?
That's what I'm saying.
I am what it looks like to give someone a fair chance, not a handout, but a hand up.
And that takes us to 2022. Chicago's mayor wanted to brand the city as a place for second chances. So she hired Benford as the city's first director of reentry for people leaving prison reentering society. There, Benford helped to reform background checks for 2,500 city jobs so that some convictions would not disqualify candidates from getting employment. Her record on the job impressed Illinois' First Lady M.K. Pritzker, who offered Benford a top job as Pritzker's senior advisor on women's issues.
Everybody at some point in their life needs someone who believes in them. Mm-hmm. I want you to say to me what she means to you.
I look at her as someone that I can trust, someone that is a friend, believes in me, and someone that did not second guess her decision when she hired me.
She brings an intelligence and a vigor to this work that I don't think anybody else could do. I believe in Willette. I think there's good in every person, and there's really a whole lot of good in Willette. We're not a couple.
We're called the Force.
Because we
get stuff done.
We get it done.
And they have got the receipts to show for it.
We worked strategically to support the closure of Logan Correctional Center, which
it's closed?
We're closing
it.
You are closing the former place where you were incarcerated. Wow.
And the reason why is because the living conditions were horrible, and they still are.
Rebuilding a facility that is more therapeutic is very helpful. I think it's helpful to the residents of the facility, and it's also very beneficial to the people that work there. Mm-hmm. So what are we having here today?
When the First Lady travels with Benford, she does a lot of listening. Some of the stories that she's heard drove her and Benford to launch a pilot program to support 100 women returning home after incarceration. The program offers subsidized housing, job training, and even childcare.
Give people an opportunity to better themselves and get a good paying job rather than spend the money on incarcerating them.
And poverty is a driver of incarceration.
Look, by now you can tell that Pritzker and Benford have a pretty strong heart connection, but they come from completely different worlds.
I landed in the lucky tub. You know, and that's really the only thing that separates Willette and I could be Willette.
M.K. Pritzker married the billionaire heir of the Hyatt Hotels fortune, J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois. Her first official visit as First Lady of Illinois was to a women's prison, and she got an earful there. She left there fired up to fix one particular issue for women and men leaving the prison system.
They couldn't get a state ID when they got out, that it was darn near impossible. They didn't have a birth certificate, they don't have social security cards, you can't open a bank account. I mean, you can't do anything.
So what did you do?
And I went home and I said, JB, can you believe this? And I said, JB, we have to fix this.
And they did. Willette Benford was at M.K. Pritzker's side when last year Governor Pritzker signed the new law, ensuring that people leaving prison now have at least the dignity of an ID to validate who they are.
You know, the lesson is you just really shouldn't judge people. You need to give people grace. And it's really amazing what two women from two completely different backgrounds can do when they join forces.
Which takes us back to Grace House and that room, still filled with so much emotion.
Inhale courage, that's what I wanted to do, and exhale any kind of fear that I might thought I felt.
It's tough, but is it also rewarding for her to stand here and see it and feel it?
Yeah, so she'll know. She knows, but I think she knows in a different way now.
So it was at Grace House in 2019 when the First Lady first met Willette Benford. Willette was a resident of the Grace House and getting her life back on track. And then the First Lady went on to watch what Willette would do over the next 4 years. And the First Lady called her personally 4 years later and said, I want you to come work for me and let's help make things better for other people leaving prison.
So beautiful. I love how you start the piece, just how you end it with that long hug. You know, that was real. They probably were holding each other for so much time because there was so much feeling and emotion exchange between the two of them. And I love the mentorship program that they're doing for women who are leaving prison.
Yep.
Because on your own, like any of us flail.
That's
We
right.
all need people to help us along, to help pull us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and the point of prison, of course, is rehabilitation.
That's what I kept thinking.
And something I always say, and my father spent time in prison, is you are not what you did on your worst day.
Amen.
You are the entirety of your life. And Willette's showing what that entirety of life can be.
This story came about because I was visiting with the First Lady, and she told me about Willette. And she told me about Willette's past. And I said, wait a minute, excuse me. You hired a woman who was sentenced to prison for first-degree murder? Like, how did this come about? And what I clearly understood was that this was the story of redemption. And I thought if the First Lady of Illinois is willing to publicly take this risk, as people see it as a risk in this chance, that's an inspiring story, right? But as Willette will tell you, I did the work. I did the work to get here. Nobody gave me any freebies. I earned where I am.
I mean, for Miss Benford, which is an incredible story, as you say, the rehabilitation works, but there are so many other thousands who don't have these opportunities. I
Amen.
just love this story.
So let this be an example to others.
Right. David, thank you as always.
You bet,
What a
brother.
piece. We'll love it.